you know, coffee cup.
That's perfect.
Can't drink all my coffee before the thing, but it's not bad because it's from Hammerhand.
Hammerhead.
It's from Hammerhead. Rebrand. Hit him with a rebrand. Okay. Hit him with the hammer hand. Hit him with a hammer hand. Hammer hand.
I think we're good on audio, but if you want to keep doing it.
I just want to keep doing it. Just
That's
having
fine.
the time of my life over here. Hammer hand.
Yes.
Boom.
Okay.
That's a good sign, guys.
Yeah.
That's a clap. That's a good sign.
I'm gonna swing this over here,
Swing it over.
and I can see the stuff, the waves.
Plenty of coffee.
Okay. So we were just talking about music and stuff, but we're gonna dig a little bit deeper, and you don't have much time, so we're just gonna dive right into it. Do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in God?
I do believe in God.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a provocative statement.
Right.
And so that's kind of what this is the first one, so let's dive deeper into it. Like, when did you believe in God, or did you always believe in God, or was it something that you were conditioned into, or was it something that I'm just giving you options?
Yeah.
Choice.
February 18th, 2007. And so I'll give you a little recap.
Date.
I was a junior in high school, 17 years old. But previous to that, like, I had no real grid for spirituality, Christianity, God, whatever, how church growing up. There was really no context. Mm-hmm. Maybe an Awana class here or there, or pop in and out of a youth group. But I think even with that, there wasn't a lot of context because it wasn't really in the home.
How old were you?
When?
Like give me 2005.
2005, I was 15.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So growing up, there was just zero grid for God. But what happened is I was a martial artist my whole life, from 8 years old up until I was 22. I was a competitor and all that. And living in Topeka, I joined a martial arts team probably my sophomore year in high school. So I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And just started like going up there every weekend, and it just started becoming a part of the weekend. So I would go to school, drive up Friday, train, or go compete or do a show, whatever. I just started building this community, and the instructor started taking us to church. And so for me, again, though, there was no context for God, but I also wasn't like opposed to going to church. I didn't have this like negative connotation.
You had like buddies that you were going with.
Yeah. So buddies, people that I trusted. And so we would just show up late on Sunday mornings.
It wasn't even like a church. It wasn't even like going to church. It was like going and hanging out with friends.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And the thing that got me, because that was probably like a 6-month time frame. Like, we would just go.
Yeah.
And started meeting these people. And again, I didn't really have anything to like break through as far as like where my mind was at with God. I just had no context.
You weren't like throwing a net on wisdom.
Right.
And like pulling it in and being like, I want more, like.
Right.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. And but what I experienced, this is what I experienced.
More of a carnal relationship. Like
more of a carnal one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you asking, is that
yeah,
what
like a recreational, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's how it was for a little while, where they, we were flipping and doing all these shows. And so the way that they kind of hooked us was, hey, do you guys want to do dramas? All the skits and the dramas and all that stuff. And so we're like, yeah, we love to perform. We do all that stuff. We'll flip for you and, do a dance or whatever. And did that for like 6 months. But here's what I was experiencing was people, every weekend, and then it became more than that because we would go to different things through the week. And I just started witnessing people that, like, from what I could see, they were passionate about Jesus. And now they were, it's more of a Pentecostal bend to that church. Mm-hmm. So kind of known for a little bit more charisma. But for me, it was really good because on a personality level, I'm more exuberant by nature and all of these things. And so when I was watching them, I'm like, dude, you guys are stoked about God every week. You know what I mean? Like, I would listen to people pray, and I'm like, dude, it's like you're talking to someone real. You know what I mean? And so those little things over time, like, and that was what was really amazing about this community, was that you have these young kids coming in, and there was no pressure, there was no guilt, there was no like, you know, you have to do this, you know, you have to believe, you have to whatever. It was like, dude, they just loved us and discipled us even before
there
coming to
had to have been
God.
like a couple of those like old ladies that were like, you know, like,
Oh, bro,
are you reading your Bible? Have you read your Bible? Like,
$1,000,000%.
like, do you really know Jesus?
The
Like,
grandmas, bro. Yeah. So
you gotta love them though. Like,
Yeah.
I remember being younger and kind of like having that year in my head and just like, I don't know. I heard different, you know, I didn't hear what a lot of people hear, like this nagging, like, you know Jesus, like,
Right.
you know, it was like, are you happy? Are you joyful? Like,
Right.
how are things going?
yeah.
I love the older women in the church.
Yep.
Was there anyone like that, like one specific person that kind of reached out their hand to you? I mean,
There was a young couple at that time that were actually, I mean, it made sense. They were the youth pastors, but it was still really different because throughout that whole time I'd never gone to the youth group, and they they held it in their garage because at this point the church didn't have their own building anymore, and so they were just kind of the setup tear down. But it was also with the youth. They were like, we have to make a space for our kids.
Yeah.
And so they opened up their garage, and that's what it became. Was, are you guys going to go to the garage this Sunday night, you know? And so
that's dope.
without loads of personal background, like I was also on a competitive cheer team, and we would, you know, have practice Sunday nights. When I stepped away from that my junior year, I actually like was able to go. And so it was February 18th, 2007, the night before the girl that I was dating at the time, you know, massive breakup, the whole deal. Obviously looking back, I was like, dude, you're an idiot. But in the moment it was real. It was still emotion. It was still hard. It was the real thing to me.
Yeah.
And so I was devastated. I just remember waking up the next day, being at church in the morning, and just for the first time actually legitimately feeling a void. Like, dang, I clung to that so hard, and now it's gone, and
This
I
girl.
don't know. Yeah, and just what it meant, because it wasn't just the girl, it was the desire to love, be loved, to be whole, filled,
To be held.
to experience, just to experience
To
like these
hold.
kind of emotions, and it was gone. And I just remember that next day, like being able to go to the youth group for the first time that night. And bro, it was sweet because it was an extended service because we didn't have school the next day, and it was just a big setup from the Lord, man. And there was no, you know, I had said the prayer a million times. Like, if you were to ask me if I believed in Jesus, had I said the prayer before, I would have told you absolutely. But I never really had like a surrendered life where I'm like, Jesus, I'm going to give you my life. I'm gonna actually like confess and believe that this is who you are. I'm gonna give you my life, not just repeat a prayer, which I'm not saying, I'm not discrediting that, but this moment was different because that night I remember just laying on the floor, just weeping. No one had led me through anything. No one did anything. It was just this response that I had with the Lord.
You felt convicted.
And I did. I felt convicted and I felt empty, but I knew that he was the only one that could fill that void. And that night I just cried out to the Lord and, you know, was like, dude, this is it. And literally February 18th, 2007, bro. Junior in high school, 17 years old. I just never looked back. I was like, man, this is it. And so after that, the course of my life changed dramatically, not just...
Did you read the Bible differently? Did you... What happened?
Well, I read the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
That's good.
Yes, it is good. It was, yeah, dude, like the passions changed. Learning what it meant to like be obedient, you know, and to follow leadership and to learn to trust the Holy Spirit and figuring out what all of that meant and being discipled. And that was the hardest thing because I grew up with no father, and to trust God and then so set up for the next, 10, 11, 12 years up to this point, it's been a journey of like not just knowing God as like just leader or God, sovereign, which he is all those things, but also Father. Yeah. And realizing that Jesus came to reveal the Father but realizing that I had also a really wide chasm there where I had no idea. What does it mean to be disciplined? What does it mean to be obedient? What does it mean to submit without it having this negative connotation to it? So that's a little bit of kind of the spiritual journey.
So you found your Heavenly Father.
Found him, bro.
What do you like when you pray? Do you call him Abba? Do you call him Father? Do you call him Master? Do you call him? I mean, there's 100 different names in the Bible.
Yeah.
But what do you call him?
Father, man. Yeah. I call him Father, and it's not that I've never really done the daddy thing or the Abba thing a lot, and not for any other reason other than like if it just is like this sense of security and like I know a father, and I've just never really had that, you know. So I know a lot of people, they feel more intimate when they do the dad thing or the daddy thing, but for me, there's like this just overwhelming sense of just security and peace when I say father, and it just kind of helps. To me, it envelops all of it, you know. Like you have this sovereignty and strength, but you also have this tenderness, and I feel like I've discovered that through the years of just reading the scriptures and knowing Jesus's heart, where he's like, man, everything I said, everything I did, because the Father, you know, wanted me to, and just being able to experience Jesus's relationship with the Father has really helped me. So
was there anybody that is there any like mentor of yours, or like what did you seek after you were like, okay, I'm saved?
Yep. Sorry, yeah.
I'm on fire.
Yep.
I'm looking to like do something.
Yep.
For the kingdom, and then like, what were your steps?
Yeah.
And did you have like a kind of a coming back to Jesus moment years later, or was it like you've always been chasing this, and that? For me, like example is like brothers. For me, it's like I gotta get like 5 brothers before I find that one wife. Sure. Right? Yeah. So like that's one of my like something that's inside of me that's like, which is kind of silly culturally, so you know, if you look at what's going on right now, but like I want like 5 guys to be able to help me find that one girl.
Yeah.
So like, what was some of your this is it?
Boom. Yeah. Where I was going with answering that last question was, there's a couple, Tony and Candace, who opened up their garage, and they were the ones that, they were really young at that time, but they were the next step for me was, what's discipleship? How do I made this decision. Okay. Yeah. The moment's over, but a new life is about to begin, and how do I even do that? And so Tony and Candace, man, they, you know, right after that kind of joined a discipleship group. And then at the same time, I felt like I was to cut my career with martial arts and everything else, you know, the direction I was going that way, and just cut it.
Was that more of like a sacrifice, or was it, what did you view
that as? It felt like a follow me moment.
Yeah.
Where, you know, when Jesus is going through and he's gathering his disciples, it's like, hey, I see that you're fishermen, but follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. And so there was an affirmation on what they had given themselves to, but it was just like, hey, I'm going to kind of use that and then change the trajectory of what that looks like.
Sure.
And so for me,
that same intensity that you were using, punching. And
that's right. And then music came along and worship leading. And so I couldn't sing, couldn't play nothing. And
that's not true now.
No, it's not true now. Yeah. Had people tell me I can't sing and that I sucked, but I didn't listen. But Tony, the reason I bring that up is because Tony, you know, he was probably 21, 22 at the time, still a young cat, and was just like, hey, do you want to be the praise and worship leader of the youth group? And so because of that, it made me pretty vulnerable, but it also, I don't know, man, like to sever what I'd given myself to since I was 8 years old was a really big deal. And
that was the closest thing to like that. I told somebody once, they said something about like dating a girl for 8 years or something, and I said, I can't even think of anything that I've done for 8 years other than maybe take a shower and brush my teeth and like eat. Or you know, you date back to like sports.
Sure.
Whenever you're younger.
It stayed, man, and that's why it was such a big deal. But I mean, looking back, it's been just as long now, having chased down worship and what's that, what it's meant to me, and how God's used music over the last 11 years, not just in my life personally, but globally. And it's just been like a really dope experience. But Tony and Candace were those people. There was also another person named Caleb Bradshaw who impacted my life tremendously in just being discipled through worship. And so in the beginning, those were kind of those steps and those things that kind of helped set boundaries in my life and kind of like became guardrails for me to walk the path that I was going to walk. And then, over time, new leadership, different levels, and, over the last 10, 11 years. So it's been cool. And I wouldn't change a thing. There's no regret. Have such a beautiful memory and how martial arts helped shape my life. But having taken this on, I have zero regrets with that process. And so those people were instrumental and still instrumental, still the closest people to me. Still
so you're still
Tony and Candace,
Caleb and Tony and Candace?
Yeah, Caleb not so much, not because of anything bad, just time. But Tony and Candace, still like their children. They only know me as their brother. You know what I mean? Just I got to live with them, and that was something that really changed a lot in my early days. Was they didn't just commit with their words, they committed with their money,
actions.
Their time, their actions, their family, their food, and brought me in for a while to just when I was in need. And
how old were you whenever they brought you in?
How old was I? 20?
Yeah.
So decent age. Just I
super rambunctious. I would never bring a 20-year-old in.
Well, especially because of how young they are. It's funny now because I have friends older than them, but just because of what they've given themselves to for so long, and even just the relationship, they feel so much older. Yeah. But they're not. Yeah. So if you were to meet them, you'd be like, oh, homies. But when I see them, I see parents. Yeah. And so I have such a respect.
You've seen them discipline.
Yeah.
Just as much. I mean, first time you meet them, you're like, yep. This person's not scary.
And they're role models, man, in terms of how I hope to be able to disciple. Mm-hmm. Just more than just saying something, but being there and putting literally my money where my mouth is, so to speak.
They'll put your head to the grinder. Iron sharpen iron.
That's right.
They were rough on you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's always.
There's no love without discipline.
Yeah. No. You're 100% right.
Yep. So
I want to know, one, you want some more coffee?
I'm good. I'm still working on it.
Okay.
This is good. Right. Yeah. Do you need some?
I think I need some.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna grab some.
Sweet.
But
coffee break.
While I'm gone, just give a quick little the shortest best story you know.
The shortest best story?
Yeah.
About anything?
Yeah, just something in your life. How about that?
Snap. Okay.
Yeah.
The shortest best story.
You can talk to me while I'm over here getting the coffee.
Okay. The shortest best story by Jordan Marcotte. Here it is. Once upon a time. No, I'm kidding. Dang, bro, I don't know the shortest best.
I don't know where the coffee.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh. Okay.
Boom. There it is.
The story of Sam trying to find coffee.
There it is. That is the shortest story, where we are looking for hammer hand head. All right, top me off, bro. Well, not top me off, just a little bit. I had some this morning. That's good. More like a warm up.
I should just keep it right there. That'd be smart, right?
Cheers.
Anyway, so for me personally, not even me personally, I've kind of realized that it's really cool to have all of these blessings and to be able to speak about them, but I don't think that you can't say your blessings without saying the struggles.
Yep.
So this is the part where I'm what were those struggles that other than that girl that you were super attached to and in love with, right? And you thought she was the world. You're a guy, I'm a guy. We've all been there. Yep. But the you said that you didn't have a father growing up.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Was that the biggest
that led? Yeah, that was the.
Because there's a lot of people who go through that.
Correct.
And I wanna know this.
Yeah. There's a lot of facets. I'll try to land a couple. So my mom was 14 when she got pregnant. My dad was 21. He dipped. So I kind of started this whole journey, abandoned, and I mean, my mom chose to keep me. That's beautiful. I had a great, I did have a pretty good upbringing, but the reality is my mom, with her issues, trying to find love herself, but also trying to give me a father.
Yeah.
And then I have 2 younger sisters that I grew up with.
Younger sisters?
Yeah. And so
that would mean she had kids before she was 14 then? No, old. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. Yep.
Gotcha.
So 2 younger sisters, we all have different dads, and those men honestly were just horrible. From abusing my mom to cheating on my mom to not being at all a great example for me as a man.
Yeah.
And so growing up in a lot of that brokenness, struggled heavily with pornography. Got introduced to that when I was 6 from my mom's first husband, who brought it into the home, and it was in the VCR. And one day I just was trying to watch TV, and there it came. And I just remember that moment on, it just kind of like tore into my innocence and just kind of like opened my mind and my I would know it now, but like literally like just my spirit, my soul just began to just really create issues. And so the biggest thing was trying to find affirmation.
Yeah.
And I was finding it in all of my accolades, so I found out really quick that whatever I did, I was good at. And it created this like tension of like, I need this in order to succeed, because I don't know what it means to just rest in being loved.
Yeah.
For me. And so I could take you down so many different paths, but at the end of it, that was me constantly searching as I grew older. Then even after meeting God, at 17 years old, all it did was expose all the more. It was great because it brought answers, but it exposed all the more that I was searching so hard and trying to perform for God. And through my struggle of pornography, through my struggles of, am I ever going to be worthy to actually be a husband, a father? Am I going to be a good leader? What does it even take to be a good man? Am I even loved by God? Look, I screwed up. And even though I know, I've heard it preached, that you're not going to just smite me, that you're gracious. You know what I mean? I know that sin separates, but what about my struggles, and what about my temptations, and what I don't feel like I can like achieve healing. And that was a constant anxiety for me. And so not having a dad created, but I'll tell you this, one of the coolest things that happened that kind of reset some of this process was, and this is kind of a long story short, but when I was 21, I always knew that I had another sister who was 1 year younger than me, from a different mom, but my same dad. And my mom had led me to her via Facebook, and was like, "Hey, this is your sister." Went and saw her on Facebook, spitting image of each other. I mean, the weirdest thing ever. Because me and my other 2 sisters don't look anything alike. Yeah. But I grew up with them. Yeah. But my sister Gabby, man, like looked like twins. It was the freakiest thing. So fast forwarding, I looked on Facebook, saw that her dad was listed, and I was like, dude, I'm just gonna put 2 and 2 together. That's got to be my dad. So messaged him, cat's out of the bag, oldest son, you're my dad, I know you are. Boom, I want to meet you. And then, man, the Lord, like, and again, this is like a 30-minute breakdown, but I'm just gonna do it really condensed. Give it to me. But it's just like, I'll never forget, man, like opening that door, so to speak, and being like, dude, after 21 years, this, like, I'm gonna meet my dad, for the first time. Then he ended up standing me up, and I was like, dude, I was outraged. Like, I just remember getting so pissed at God. I'm like, dude, why would you ever open this? Like, I made it 21 years. You know what I'm saying? Then I got my hopes up, and now I'm let down again, and this is what's been happening my whole life, and da-da-da-da. But I woke up the next morning, and I'll never forget it. I had this, like, true moment where I said, man, like, I had to forgive a lot of other men before ever getting to an issue with my own father. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, like, I forgive him 100%. Now, I did tell the Lord, not like in a vow. I just was like, I don't want to pursue him anymore because I don't want to leave room for disappointment. But but I forgive him, and he owes me nothing, like zero. And if it works out, it works out. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. And so a couple months later, found out about my grandma, who I'd never met, by the way, was in the hospice. And I was just in prayer one day, and I knew that God wanted me to go visit her. So I drove to Wichita, walked in a room, oldest grandchild that she has, from my dad's side, or from my dad. And she couldn't speak, but I just remember seeing her pretty much on her deathbed and making this connection, and meeting two of my aunts and all of this crazy stuff. Driving home thinking, wow, like I just met my grandma who I'd never met before. 2 days later, she passed away. And at the funeral, I was invited to come sing at the funeral from some cousins. And that was going to be the moment where I met my dad for the first time. It was at his mom's funeral. But I wasn't just going to meet my dad. I was going to meet 9 aunts and uncles, 30-some cousins, and like 2 more of my siblings.
What?
And so, bro, I show up, and...
Were you shaking in your boots? Were
dude,
you
I didn't know
nervous?
what. I was just telling this story yesterday. Like, dude, I didn't know what to feel. And I just stopped trying to figure out what I was supposed to feel, bro. It was like, because I knew it was going to be a wave of all of it. But I didn't know when or how it was going to hit me, you know, because I knew that there was going to be tears.
It's a whole different game whenever you're scheduled.
Bro.
You know?
Because I just knew.
It's different if it's just spontaneous. Like,
yes.
For me, at least, like, hey, get up on the stage and like say some jokes. Like, oh yeah, okay, let me have the mic. But if somebody was like, hey, next week you got an hour set and you got to be here at this time and we're gonna have you get up on stage and you're gonna do some entertainment and stuff, I'd be like, no way.
Right. Especially under
this
these
is me trying to like that's
bro.
That's not entertainment.
Level.
That's like you're meeting your lineage, like.
Literally, bro. Yeah. So I mean, it was nuts, man. Like, long story short, I show up. Middle of sound check. The bishop calls everyone to stand up. The family's coming in, and sure enough, my dad is like 4th in line, 5th in line, and we make eye contact. We know it, and bro, the first interaction we ever had in 21 years is he just walks up to the stage, doesn't say anything, just gives me a hug and a kiss, and then walks off the stage. And I was like, that's my dad. And that was our first interaction. And this is crazy. Oh, but by the way, aunts and uncles, oh, by the way, I look like all of y'all, different last name, but you have no idea who I am. Met 2 more of my siblings who, by the way, didn't know who I was. None of them out of the 4 knew that they had an older brother. And so anyways, man, the reason I bring all of that up is because that was one of the biggest turning points with pertaining to this particular issue of just feeling fatherless, forsaken, abandoned, all of those emotions, where one of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had was learning to forgive and realized that God had given me grace to forgive him and literally mean it when I say, you owe me nothing. Your performance, you let me down. But it's like, I literally wipe it.
Those demons fled that day.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I heard the Lord say, yeah, but the same for you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, how much more, is my love for you? I'm not holding you like victim to all of these shortcomings and failures, and you know what I mean? Like, I love you as a son, and your performance to me doesn't impress me. It doesn't make me love you more or less. And so I just began to break down these walls where it was kind of like about halfway, it's 4 or 5 years in to salvation, and just like this big epic moment that not a lot of people get in their life, or some people don't want it in their life. They don't want to go down that route. And so, yeah, man, like leading up to where I am now at 29, having, I'm married now and experiencing leadership and love and things that I've never experienced before, and holding them in such a new light. Even just knowing that, 10 months ago, the talk of having, even my own son or daughter was not even up in the air, and now how it could.
You're having a son?
No. I'm just saying, like, being married now, it's just like it's a real conversation. Yeah. Like here in the next couple
I was
of
like,
years.
this is kind of a weird way to present that kind of news, but
Well, ladies and gentlemen, no, it's not. But it's just like, even just entertaining that real thought.
Yeah.
Is crazy, because I'm just like,
you never even envisioned it. Like,
I didn't, man, and I did, but it felt like a fantasy, man. Like I held it up so high, and the Lord's just really helped me through this process, man, to just find healing, even with pornography and all that stuff, man. Like, it wasn't so much of it's like the person that struggles with the food, that struggles with alcohol, that struggles with anything. Like, there's always that deeper thing that they're trying to fill and to be satisfied or whole, or trying to just numb something, you know what I'm saying? And I just found myself so many times where I would just like break down and turn to this thing. And then when I tried to run from pornography, man, like I would go to food and try to like make peace with like I'm struggling on the inside. God, I don't feel like I can come to you. And so I'm going to go to this other thing. And it's just been such a beautiful like experience knowing the Father's true love for me. And both of those clicked.
I know. We still have this one right here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted those to stay on.
No, it's just kind of crazy how like that, when you made that,
yeah,
right at the climax, just
resolve. Boom. So, anyhow, yeah.
Do you want to end it on that? You
Oh,
got to get out of here. You got time for a little bit more?
I can talk for a little bit more.
Okay, I'm gonna hit those cameras and
Okay,
line them back up.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts. And even after, like, I remember thinking like now it's been 7-8 years, and you always think like the best part of this is, in 10 years I want to be able to, now we have an amazing, thriving relationship. And though I want to say that, it's like, but realizing it's still hard to try to make this work, because after 21 years, like, if you don't have relational collateral, like, and for a while, like, I was the only one pursuing all 5, 4 siblings, my father, and that just like became, as much as I hate saying this, like, it just became burdensome because I was the only one participating over years, and that gets difficult to try to push and press. And I realized some of it was because I sincerely wanted their relationship in my life. But some of it was striving and to perform. And because
that old self.
Because honestly, this is a great example of that. Because I wanted to be able to sit here now and tell you that me and my dad's relationship is thriving unlike no other. And to sit here and say I have a beautiful relationship with all 4 of the siblings that I met, or all 3 of them, sorry. And it's just not the case at all. I actually don't have much of a relationship with any of them anymore. And circumstances, whatever, tried, gave effort, and you just realize that, like, if people don't want it as much as you do. But then I also realized that the biggest part of this testimony wasn't just that now I get to have a success rate with those family members, but still believing that God has like a plan of redemption, and to just be the oldest sibling of all of these, kids, and figure out how to navigate relationship with my father. Like, there's just been a lot of things that I've learned. And I realized one of the coolest things I get to do is honestly live my life as an example to all of them that, man, Jesus heals. It wasn't by good works. It wasn't just by good counsel or a good book. You know what I mean? It really, you can't experience redemption on that level without a redeemer. It's just like you can try to make things happen, but it wasn't, getting rid of pornography in my life or getting rid of all of these things wasn't because I got some dope software on my phone or because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it took a deep resolve and healing and trust that he was who he says that he was, and that he is who he says that he is. And that's what changed it for me, was like, I couldn't just say Father. Like, I had to literally live my life as though he is my Father. And I had to learn that because it was never learned. I didn't grow up with. I mean, even
The first time you went to
broken,
church was with the martial arts guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, no. I mean, bro. I mean, I've popped into church service through the years.
Sure.
So, bro, I can maybe count on my hands. You know what I mean? In those 17 years, how many times I actually did that?
Yeah.
But it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like that was when it was. Yeah, it was way different. So, anyways, that's kind of that's the condensed and longer version of just the primary issue that spiderwebbed into all of these things.
Yeah.
And how it kind of like came back again to finding such a resolve in just trusting a father, because I didn't know how to trust one.
Do you see all of that like happened as not necessarily you, but as in like the structure, I guess structure would be the best word, or just the happenings? Do you see that as perfect? Like there could be no other way that happened to where you got to where you're at right now?
I think I get what you're asking.
You follow me?
I think so.
Like I went through a breakup, right? But
Yep.
I think that like that happened, and it happened the way it happened.
Yep.
Because it was by design, it was perfect.
Yep.
And that has like helped me to like
Yep.
go like, what's going on tomorrow, God?
Yep. Yeah. The way I see that is God is sovereign.
Don't worry about yesterday.
I can always look back and sure, but that's a tough subject, because not a tough subject. It's just
That kind of like dives into like predestination, doesn't it?
yeah. Which I don't think is what you're asking about, unless you are, which is a different conversation. I just think God is sovereign. I know He is.
Yeah.
God is sovereign, and He works things out. I can look back and tell you where there were absolute idiotic things that I know that I did out of disobedience or whatever, but I also see things that God orchestrated in order to see it go a certain way. The reality is that I can take you back over the last, from 17 to 29, and I
Fine-tooth comb.
I can, yeah. I mean, anyone can go back and be like, that thing was absolutely God. That thing, I was an idiot.
Yeah.
And everything in between. So I do see it as like it worked out the way that it has, and it leaves a lot of room and hope for what's to come. So, anyways, yeah. As far as it like. Yeah, the predestination thing is not really the point of conversation at the time. But anyways, yeah. God's sovereign, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's a pretty neat testimony.
Yeah.
Is there like anything that we're missing?
Oh, I mean, there's maybe a few things. But
I mean, like where you're at now and like what you're doing today. We heard a lot about.
Yeah.
But what are you doing? Heck, I meant to open this up and ask, how did we meet?
Me and you?
Yeah.
We met 2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago.
Yeah.
And I was playing some sexy R&B chords, and you came up and started singing. And honestly, we started chopping it up right there. That's how I met you. You had a camera in hand, and boom.
Yeah.
So,
well, you had a piano in hand, I had a camera in
There
hand,
you
and
go.
I was like,
there you go. We started
Okay.
talking about music. You sent me some links. You talked to me about this dope idea of getting testimonies and stuff. And
yeah.
I love sharing. Testimonies are powerful, bro. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and something that like hit me hard recently was like, this will always be there.
Yep.
You're talking about a son, maybe, right?
Yep.
His son, his daughter.
Yep.
Daughter. Like, how crazy would it be to see your great grandfather's testimony?
Right.
Like, that just blows. And I'm reading through the Old Testament, so like I'm like reading through, like really recognizing how old this world is.
Yeah.
Whatever if you believe it's 6 billion, 10 billion, but like how far history kind of goes back.
And how important generations are.
Generations
God made that
and
so
bloodlines
important. Yeah.
So it's just, man, this coffee is getting me. I'm like,
jittery?
yeah, a little bit jittery.
Same, with a little bit of a chill down here. But it's all good.
Yeah, it is a little bit chilly.
But yeah, man, come on.
I don't really know how to close this other than like.
You doing a little intro and outro on this?
No. This is it's just uncut, and I don't really like want to look into the camera and be like, oh, today we're talking about.
Right.
I just kind of want to look at the person who's speaking.
Yeah.
For me personally, it's like I don't feel like I listen enough, and so like this is not only to get your testimony out there, but it's also kind of for me to be able to like sit down and actually listen to somebody speak.
I love that. That's cool.
You know?
Yeah.
And hearing your story, it kind of like makes it speaks to me because that's who I kind of was, is that like anything and everything that I tried, I would want to be the very best at it, right? And whether it be snowboarding or whether it be photography or whether it be wrestling or basketball or whatever it is, I'd always want. And so then once, about like the time I like met God, it was like, okay, let me do the best I can. And so I did that whenever I was like 14 years old. Like I was like the best Christian.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not a performance. It's not.
Right.
Although you can view it that way, and you can get pretty high up on the ladder.
Right.
And you can get pretty far, but it's like.
Right.
That doesn't mean much.
Right.
So, anyway.
Well, I appreciate it, seriously.
Yeah.
For having me and letting me share, and hopefully someone out there is encouraged and touched by it. So.
Right. Because this is the first, can I get like some kind of like email address or something from you? I can throw it in the description if there's somebody that sees this and they're like, they want to be able to, they really connect with your story.
Yep. You want me to just say it over the thing?
Sure.
I didn't know if that. I don't know if.
If you write it down, if you write it down, I'll probably lose it. And if you text it to me, I guess you can text it to me. But
Jordan A. Marcotte, JordanA Marcotte @gmail.com.
And then I can like put that in the.
Dope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Come on.
You got any other ideas? Because they're just on the top of my head right now.
Dude, I like it kind of more uncut and candid, and like. I think it can still be professional without having a crazy. It could still be like a high quality in production without loads of structure.
Yeah.
So I think if you get that, that's why I appreciate just the real conversation. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any other agenda other than to answer your questions. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about a testimony. It's like there's nothing that anyone can say or do to change what you experienced and what you've gone through, you know? So like what I've experienced with the Lord and about God in these last, almost 12 years, it's like no one can take that from me. And I think that's just so powerful about a story. I mean, that's so much of what we read in the Word is just like real inspired accounts about who Jesus was. Even you're reading through the Old Testament, man, even just like where's Jesus in all of that, and finding him in the Old Testament, man, all the prophecies and all of the things that, when you crack open Matthew and you see the whole lineage broken down, but then you go back to the Old Testament, you're like, snap.
Dude, I'm reading through Malachi right now, and then like I'm gonna like with a group of guys, I think we're gonna just roll into Matthew. And if I could suggest anything, like if you ever I am gonna look in the camera. I'm gonna say like if you ever read the Bible, like start with Malachi and then read into the New Testament.
The New Testament, yeah. Because
like it's just, and also understand that like Malachi, it was written like 200, 300 years before Matthew,
like
the period of Matthew. So like I'm talking about Elijah, because nobody gets it. Nobody gets like the John the Baptist if you don't know who Elijah is and stuff.
Sure. But
no, I think that conversations like work backwards, and I think that they should be switched. I have this like kind of like this, and this is kind of how our relationship started, because we haven't met outside of church and just like chatting. Right. Yeah. But like what would it look like to actually share your testimony with somebody, and then like go from there.
Yep.
And asking that question kind of was what prompted, hey, let's actually do some, let's put the cameras on and record it.
I dig it.
So maybe in like 10 years, we'll sit down again and be like,
yeah, bro.
That's pretty cool how I ended up being your drummer in your band. I don't play drums anymore.
Word. All right.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Jordan, it was nice. It was nice.
It was nice, and thank you for the coffee.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Take some to go. I guess we'll just like cut it. I feel weird like saying like subscribe, but subscribe.
Yeah.
You can tell.
You should. You should subscribe.
You should subscribe.
You should.
I think that I'm going to Wichita. I'm speaking with somebody there. I'm going to Colorado. A pastor and a doctor out there.
Are you bringing your whole setup?
Oh yeah, yeah. All this is just gonna get, except for the backdrop.
Yeah.
But
Dope.
definitely this.
Love it. All right, man.
Cool. I guess I'll just like fade it out.
Dope.
That'd be cool, right?
Yeah. Or just us. I don't know. A little bit of
Like just stepping out of the shot.